There. This weather is awful. So windy, I could barely close the door then. So much resistance. Oh, hello guys, and welcome back to Car Obsession. So this video has been a long time coming because I posted about this quite some time ago, but this is Ask Aaron the Olaf edition. So I'm in Olaf, my JDM Civic Type R, and I wanted to give you guys the opportunity to ask me questions about my car. I haven't got a lot of petrol, so I can't film for too long. So the interior is a mess. I've just been filming with fellow YouTubers, Petrolhead TV, in fact he's to my right hand side, and Dreams to Drive, he's now left. All that battery is running a little bit flat. Fab, just what I need. Oh, actually I've just realised, because I'm in my JDM Civic Type R, I can show you my t-shirt. Look at that, look. Sorry, saying goodbye to Dan. Look, it's even got the number plate on it and everything. Hopefully you can see that. You might not, but look. Look at that. That was a present from the missus. In fact, I'm going to show this off because this my jacket is drenched. But there's going to be some interference on the audio. Right, so let's go for a little drive. It's going to have to be quite little because I haven't got a lot of petrol left. I've been blasting about today with Petrolhead TV and Dreams to Drive. Been good fun. In case that's so heavy, it's soaked with water. In case you're wondering what I filmed with them, I did a comparison video. So my Civic Type R against Petrolhead TV's Civic Type R, because he's got a UK Type R, a Premier Edition, so it has pretty much the same interior as Olaf. Anyway, that aside, make sure everything is recording. Yep, we're good to go. Now, at the time of filming, the UK is currently being hit by Storm Dennis, so the weather today is woeful. But that aside, turn the air conditioning down a bit. Right, and away we go. So the first question I have is, what is the main differences between the JDM and the UK version? Obviously, that's always going to be one of the first questions to be asked about this car. So to be honest, if I'm going to be, brutally honest, the differences aren't that massive. Now, for starters, this car is finished in championship white along with matching alloys, which is something I didn't mention in the video that I just shot with Dan. I couldn't believe I didn't mention that. Such an obvious difference, but we were having too much fun, really. So yeah, the UK versions were not available in this colour unless someone got a UK version and then painted it white. I have had one or two people comment and say, "Oh, you've got a UK Premier Edition that you've painted white." No, this is the real McCoy. This is the proper JDM. Anyway, so differences. So the engine is different. So I've got the engine and the gearbox from a DC5 Integra Type R. So the UK car, the engine code is K20A2, whereas this engine code is K20A. It has more power, so this has 215 horsepower, whereas the UK version has 200. Okay, it's only 15 extra horsepower, it's not much, but more is more. The torque figures are quite similar. The UK version has got 196 Newton meters. If you want that in pound-feet, I will pop a subtitle below. I think the JDM version has 202, if I'm not mistaken. Like I say, the torque is very similar, as is the power. One of the biggest differences, though, is this car has got a limited slip differential, whereas the UK car never had one from factory. And that really does make a difference, particularly on a day like today. I didn't drive Dan's car because of insurance issues, but driving this car through the corners, I've got so much confidence in it compared to when I drove Honda's Heritage EB3 Civic Type R a while back. Through the corners, you didn't have that same amount of traction, and you also got a bit of understeer as well. So yeah, paint, limited slip diff, different engine, different gearbox. The gearbox itself, the ratios are shorter, and this has actually got a higher rev limiter. Although, if I'm not mistaken, the VTEC in the JDM version actually comes in a little bit later compared to the UK one. I think VTEC in this kicks in at around 6,000 RPM, whereas on the UK versions, I think it's around 5,700, 5,800. So the VTEC does kick in a little bit later, but you get a higher rev range, so it does balance out. And I can't think of anything else obvious right now. The wing mirrors are different. Now the facelift UK Civic Type Rs, the indicators are built into the wing mirrors, whereas on my car, well, the JDM cars, they are not. Right, what is the next question? There's quite a few questions in one there. Okay, let's touch upon the steering. Now, when I drove the UK, when I drove the Heritage Civic Type R, I did say that the steering, well, I'm pretty sure, I'm doing this from memory, but I think I said the steering felt a tad numb. It didn't have the amount of feedback I was after. Does the JDM feel any different? No, not really. I think you'd have to drive, both cars back to back in real isolation to notice if there's any differences in the steering. I've become used to the steering. The weight of the steering is pretty good, but yeah, it is a touch numb. But that is a common complaint. That is a common complaint for the EB3 Civic Type R. The facelift did improve things, but from what I've read, the differences between the pre-facelift and the facelift aren't that massive, to be honest. What's the next part of that question? There's so much in that question. Is it practical? Yes, it is. This is a hatchback after all. Okay, it's a 3-door, so it's not quite as practical as a 5-door, but the boot is a decent size. Getting access to the back isn't that difficult, and although it may not look like there's a lot of space back there, rear space isn't actually that bad. So yeah, this is a practical car, and that's why I love hot hatchbacks, because you have the performance, but you still have a good amount of practicality to go with it. This for me is like a Swiss Army knife. That's why I love these kind of cars. And yes, people have complimented me on the car, so it's always nice when someone comes up to you and knows what your car is, for starters, because not everyone knows about the JDM Civic Type R, and also appreciates your motor. I really like that. What's the last part of that question? Transmission. Yep, the clutch feels pretty good. The weight of the clutch isn't quite as heavy as what I got used to in my Seat Ibiza. That's a big puddle. But the clutch feels, it feels meaty enough. The gearbox, this 6-speed manual gearbox, it is nigh on perfection. Honda, bravo. I love this 6-speed manual gearbox. Some people don't like the fact that it's mounted onto the dashboard and that looks a bit ugly and looks like a van, but it really does work well. When you're moving through the gears, actually, I need to check my fuel level. I haven't got much left. Screw it. Oh, really felt the limited slip diff work through there. Man, the grip through there, even on a day like today, on tyres that aren't the best. Astonishing. But anyway, I've got sidetracked. The gearbox is fantastic. Working through it, rev matching is just bliss. Sheer bliss. I think the engine and gearbox combination in this car is probably about the best you are going to find in a hot hatch. So yeah, again, bravo Honda, fantastic. Right, next question. Would I ever sell it? Well, I'm a person that I like to try new things. Well, depends on what it is. I'm fussy when it comes to food. But when it comes to cars, I like new experiences. So there will be a point where this car will be sold. However, I'm not one of those YouTubers who will buy a car, have it for a few months, the typical kind of put a wrap on it, put an exhaust on it, and then sell it. Now, yes, granted, I am selling my Mark II MX-5, or that might have been sold, depending on what's happened between now and when this video gets published. But I do have a good reason for that. You know, the circumstances is that that Mark II MX-5 doesn't really make sense for me right now. But my point is that I'm the type of person who will buy a car and then want to keep it for a sustained amount of time. Now, my Ibiza, I had that for like 5 years. So, you know, I'm not the type of person who just, you know, buys cars or flips cars or that sort of thing. But there will be a point at, you know, sometime in the future, this car will be sold. Not that my wife will let me sell it, because she loves Civic Type Rs. But yeah, I will move on to something else eventually, but you know, that's not going to be for quite some time. Anything I don't like about it? Well, if I'm going to be anal, if I'm going to be pedantic, I would like to be sat a little bit lower. I did mention that when I drove the Heritage Civic Type R a while back. These Recaro seats are fantastic, but I would want to be sat just a little bit lower. I do feel like I'm sat on the car a little bit. The turning circle is rubbish. One thing that I still haven't got quite used to is the ability to kind of swing into like a parking bay in a supermarket car park or wherever first time, because you think you've got the right kind of angle and you're going to just slot into it nicely, and then you just have to do like a 100-point turn. Okay, I'm exaggerating, an 80-point turn. But yeah, the turning circle isn't fantastic, to be honest. What else don't I like about it? I don't like the fact that when you tilt the front seats to gain access to the rear, they don't slide forward on their own accord. You have to do it manually yourself. That is annoying. Picky, but when you're living with the car, that does become an annoyance. Yeah, for sure. And in regard to plans to modify the car, I hate to disappoint you, but I have no plans to modify it. I want to keep this car as standard as possible. Where am I going to go here? I don't even know where I am. I'll tell you what, let's go this way. Actually, I think I'll turn around. This road's deserted. Eerie. I don't have any plans to modify the car because of what this car is. I want to keep it as factory standard as possible. So yeah, so I hate to disappoint you, but no, there are no plans to modify it. Right, so these engines, they're made to be thrashed. So this is how you drive this car. To really get the best out of this car, you have to rag it. The party is at the top of the rev range. You want that magic VTEC window where you can really give it a bootful and just have a blooming good time. Right, give it the beans once more. Hopefully it won't get too much wheel spin. And that's the speed limit very quickly. So that is how you drive the car, and in fact, it's difficult to fully demonstrate it because it's so wet today. Even with the limited slip diff, there's certain parts of the road where the front wheels are just lighting up. So yeah, this car is made to be driven hard, and it will thank you for it. So a similar kind of question to the one earlier. No, I don't have any plans to upgrade it for more power because, to be honest, I don't feel the need for more power in this car. At no point have I driven this car and thought, oh, it's a bit slow. And I've said it before, people think that outside of VTEC, Honda Civic Type Rs are gutless. They really aren't. Yes, you don't get the same kind of low-end torque or mid-range torque as you would get from a turbocharged alternative, but you know, once you get into that VTEC, it is a different animal. I'm sure that's been said many times, probably by me to be honest, but yeah, this car is something else. Oh god, I'm really struggling with petrol. Right, what's the next question? It's very useful to day-to-day driving. Yes, it may have a lot of performance, but it's still as easy to drive and navigate as your standard Civic. Okay, as I mentioned earlier, the turning circle isn't fantastic, and of course the ride is firmer, but I've had no issues driving this car day-to-day, and it is a hatchback, so it's practical, as I touched upon earlier. So driving this day-to-day, easy peasy. Now that's a very good question and an interesting question, because there's nothing on the new hot hatch car market that is like this. You know, this car, I wouldn't say it is a bit of a dinosaur, but it's the kind of car that I don't think the car market will ever see again. You know, a high revving, naturally aspirated engine. You know, so many cars nowadays are turbos, or, well, I was going to say supercharged. Not that many mainstream cars are supercharged. And of course more cars are going down the road of mild hybrids. So this is, in my opinion, a different kind of entity as, well, there's that big puzzle again. It's a different kind of entity as what, compared to what we're used to on the new car market. This is definitely more raw, it's more visceral, and I don't really think there's a hot hatch out there that is similar. Well, actually, tell a lie, I think the only hot hatch I can think of that has a similar kind of DNA to this is, of course, the brand new Civic Type R, the FK8. Yes, that is turbocharged, but it's still got a VTEC system, and that car is savagely fast. Okay, it's not quite the quickest, to 62 miles per hour, but through the corners, it's difficult to beat. I know the new Renault Megane Trophy R's beat it around the Nürburgring, but that's a car that can, depending on what specification you go for, cost you up to £73,000 for a Renault hatchback. Are you actually off your head? No, just no. But yeah, I think it's difficult to compare this to a new hot hatch, because this is the power delivery and the way how this car performs is so kind of detached from what we're now used to on the new car market, and that's a good thing. Well, for me it's a good thing. You know, some may not like the delivery that VTEC has to offer, but I think you know, me and Petrolhead TV were talking about it earlier. I think you have to experience VTEC before you can knock it, because, you know, I know someone that I used to work with. He used to hate Hondas, and I think he drove one or had a passenger ride in one, and he loves them now. I think last time I spoke to him, he was thinking about buying an old Civic and making it supercharged or something. So yeah, it really is one of those things you have to kind of try before you buy, so to speak. I don't think I've got many more questions left. So last question. Yes, I honestly think it will be a future classic, particularly the JDM version. Yeah, I think this has got future classic written all over it, just because of the engine and gearbox combination, and just how, you know, it's quite different to other hot hatches. Not quite VTEC, but I'm on quite a wet dual carriageway, so I'm not going to do anything too silly, and I need to conserve petrol. So yeah, will the EP3 be a future classic? Yeah, and I'd argue it already is, in my opinion. I definitely think this will go down as one of the all-time hot hatch greats. Of course, the UK version is lacking the limited slip diff, so it can be a bit edgy in regard to lift-off oversteer, but there's a reason why you see so many of the UK versions on the road, because they're good value for the amount of car you're getting for your money. And if you do want to go down the road of modifying them, there's lots of options, and there's a very strong fan base, including yours truly. But obviously, like I said, I'm not looking to modify this, so don't get any ideas. So yeah, I haven't really got much else to say. So thank you for all of your questions. I'm probably going to wrap up now because I'm now stuck on a boring dual carriageway. It's wet, it's nasty, it's grim. So yeah, thank you so much for your questions at Big Puddle. I do appreciate it. Apologies it's taken me so long to get this video done. I've just been so busy, and there's never been a right time to film this video. I'd argue today isn't really a right time because the weather is so bad. But sorry, I felt a vibration, but it's just that last bit of road. But yeah, thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you for your questions. I hope you have enjoyed this video. If so, be sure to like, subscribe, and to ring my bell so you get notified every time I make a video. But until the next time, guys, be sure to keep up the car obsession. There goes my camera.